On April 20, 2026, Apple issued a brief press release that sent an immediate ripple through the financial and technology sectors. Tim Cook, the executive who scaled Apple to a $3 trillion valuation, announced he was stepping down, setting a firm departure date of September 1st. Apple operates as a functional organization, where top executives are expected to possess deep technical expertise in their specific domains. For an outside manager, navigating the friction between Apple's design, software, and hardware teams without that foundational intuition would be a massive liability. To maintain that continuity, the board turned to John Ternus. He's a 50-year-old executive who has spent 25 years navigating the company's internal machinery. Tim Cook built his tenure on operational efficiency and mastering global logistics. By elevating a former mechanical engineer to the top position, Apple is signaling a deliberate return to a product-first, hardware-driven strategy. Ternus began his career focused entirely on the mechanics of physical objects. He graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 1997 with a degree in mechanical engineering. His early technical work required solving highly complex, practical design problems. For his senior project, he built a mechanical feeding arm controlled entirely by head movements for individuals with quadriplegia, and his first job involved designing early virtual reality headsets. He arrived at Apple in 2001 as a junior product designer. His first assignment was a single desktop monitor, the Apple Cinema Display. Over the next 12 years, he moved into executive hardware management. By 2013, he was appointed vice president of hardware engineering. At this level, his responsibilities expanded from single devices to massive ecosystems. He was handed 3 critical divisions: the AirPods, the Mac, and the iPad. This pairing highlights the complexity of his oversight. Managing the Mac and the iPad concurrently means balancing different computing architectures, thermal constraints, and user bases, often within the same development cycle. Most hardware leads focus on a single product line. Ternus was tasked with running 3 of Apple's major revenue drivers at once. Successfully scaling across these distinct categories demonstrated to the board that he could manage the company's entire hardware roadmap. In 2020, the process of positioning Ternus for higher office accelerated. He was handed direct oversight of Apple's most profitable division, iPhone hardware. In a significant internal shift, Ternus assumed control of the iPhone portfolio directly from his superior, Dan Riccio. This 2021 organizational chart shows John Ternus replacing Dan Riccio as Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering. In late 2022, Ternus also added the Apple Watch. Zooming out reveals the full consolidation. Every major piece of hardware now sits entirely within his portfolio. Consolidating power internally was only one aspect of the plan. Apple also needed shareholders to recognize him as an authority. The company began placing him on stage repeatedly at major WWDC events, making him the face of the newest Mac and iPad iterations. By funneling the entire hardware division into a single office, the board effectively removed any internal competition for the CEO role. This brings us back to the announcement in April 2026. The handover was the final, public step in a heavily coordinated transition. Ternus represents a specific combination of traits: the technical DNA of an engineer, paired with the experience of managing a global corporate pipeline. Where Tim Cook excelled in perfecting complex supply chains, Ternus has spent a quarter of a century focused on the physical constraints and material science of the devices themselves. When he takes the helm on September 1st, he will be expected to drive a highly aggressive, engineering-focused agenda for the company's next decade. This appointment is the conclusion of a 25-year trajectory, one as methodically planned as the hardware Ternus was hired to design in 2001.